The assess phase is kind of where I bring some of that data together in a bit more of a formal way. When I looked at the early years framework, this is what it was telling me around what children should be doing and what we should be working towards for young children in relation to storytelling and creativity and opportunities to support positive relationships. So these are ones that I felt were really relevant, kind of like a benchmark to be able to look at, okay, this is what the early years framework suggests. And obviously it's going to be different for a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. This is going to look quite different. And that's where my knowledge came in around, okay, what's appropriate for Ella to be doing as a 5-year-old.
In the assessment phase,
we use our professional knowledge and determine what those observations that we had taken are now telling us about the child and what is important about that. And so an observation, it has no meaning unless we have completed that assessment or analysis of the observation. And so it's the key part of that. It's where we also, as you talked about, link in the connections to the EYLF and the curriculum framework.
In terms of the assessment component for Ella, I used all my data that you saw in the previous section. And based on that, I actually pulled together a learning story. I used the jottings, the language transcript, and that basic analysis that I came to in my head before I sat down and properly analysed and pulled together a piece of assessment. I kind of pulled them all together into a learning story. And a learning story is literally that idea of telling a story. So I also thought it could be nice to have a story for Ella of her journey of this unit of inquiry. So this is not the whole learning story. And I'm assuming that I would attach the whole learning story in the appendices of my assignment. Is that right, Mel?
In the assignment, we don't necessarily have a whole appendices section, so you can provide your evidence within each section of the assessment task. And it doesn't have to be every single piece of documentation or every single analysis that you've undertaken. In the assignment, the best way to describe it is to pick out the gold star versions of what you've done across the course. And so what do you want to share with us as evidence that you completed this assess and analyze stage of the planning cycle, and show us, a really good, high quality example of that, and making sure that each piece of evidence that you include is connected to the piece that you provided in the previous stage. When we are conducting our assessment phase or our analysis stage and interpreting the learning that's taking place, that's when we start to think about, well, where am I going to take this child's learning now? Is thinking, okay, I've got this data, I now know this information about the children, and this has then led me into this unit of inquiry that I'm going to start to plan and implement with the children.